It's the 31st of December, 2025. A few hours before midnight, on a wiki most people have never heard of, someone posts a block of characters. It is not a password. It is not stolen source code. It is the number the PlayStation 5 uses to decide every single time you press the power button whether it is allowed to start. By morning, Sony has a problem it cannot fix. To understand why, you have to know what happens in the first thousandth of a second after you press that button. Inside every PlayStation 5 is a custom AMD processor. On that chip, alongside the parts that render your games, sits a very small piece of memory that can never be written to again. It was fixed at the factory. It cannot be updated, patched, or erased. Engineers call it the BootROM. The BootROM holds the first code the console ever runs. Its only job is to check the next piece of software before handing control to it. If the signature matches, the console continues. If it doesn't, the console stops. That next piece checks the piece after it, and that one checks the next. This is called a chain of trust, and every link depends on the one before it. Your phone does the same thing. So does your car. So does the machine that dispenses your money. The BootROM is the first link. Everything else hangs off it. And unlike every other link, it was never designed to be replaceable, because it was never supposed to fail. And on the 31st of December, the keys inside it were published. The first names attached to it belonged to two figures in the console modding scene. Their posts were taken down within hours. It didn't matter. By then, the keys and the seeds used to derive them were listed on psdevwiki, a public technical reference, and mirrored across Discord servers and forums. Sony has been here before. In January 2011, the private signing key for the PlayStation 3 was published on a personal website. That key was compromised because Sony's own implementation had reused a number that was supposed to be random. Sony sued. The network went down for 23 days. 77 million accounts were taken. And the key itself was never replaced because every disc ever pressed for that console had been signed with it. It cost Sony $171 million. The company later settled a class action over the feature its own security decision had removed and paid owners $55 each. 15 years later, the same company, the same layer of the machine. But this time, it is not a mathematical error. Nobody derived these keys from a flaw in the arithmetic. They came out of Sony. How they got out is not publicly known. There has been no arrest, no lawsuit, no named suspect. Extracting keys from a read-only chip is not something done casually. It takes either physical access to silicon and the equipment to read it, or access to material that was never supposed to leave a building. What is known is where they ended up. So what does it actually do? Less than the headlines suggested, and more than Sony would like. It does not unlock your console. Downloading the keys and typing them somewhere achieves nothing. There are further layers of protection above the BootROM, and getting past them still requires finding and chaining separate vulnerabilities. Within days of the leak, one working entry point was described publicly, and it required a specific retail game disc from 2002 to trigger it. That is the actual state of it, not a switch, a lock-picking kit with several pieces still missing. What it does is remove the fog. Until this leak, the PlayStation 5 startup was a sealed box. Researchers could see what went in and what came out, and had to guess at everything between. With the BootROM keys, The bootloader can be decrypted and read. The exact sequence in which the console verifies itself becomes visible. Every future attempt starts from a map instead of a guess. And here is the part Sony cannot do anything about. A software vulnerability gets patched. Sony has done it dozens of times. A firmware update goes out, the hole closes, the exploit dies. These keys are not in software. They are physically etched into silicon, decided when the chip was manufactured. There is no update that reaches them. There is no recall that could reach them either. More than 60 million PlayStation 5 consoles have been sold. Every one of them was manufactured with these keys inside. Every one of them will keep those keys until it stops working. Sony has exactly one option. It can build new chips. Nintendo did precisely this in 2018. A flaw in the original Switch let anyone with a paperclip and a cable run their own code, and it sat in a chip that could not be updated. Nintendo revised the hardware. Millions of the earlier units are still exploitable today, 8 years on. A future hardware revision can be produced with different keys fused in, and those consoles will be protected. The ones already in living rooms will not be. There is no version of this where Sony gets those back. Which raises a question that is easy to miss because it sounds like a technicality. Who is this security actually protecting? The obvious answer is Sony, and that answer is not wrong. A jailbroken console runs unlicensed software, and some of that software is pirated games. But the chain of trust does something else at the same time. It decides what your machine is permitted to do. And the company that holds the key is the company that decides. In 2028, Sony will stop producing physical PlayStation discs. In 2027, the PlayStation 3 store closes permanently, and archivists are currently racing to pull down what they can before the servers go dark. When the store is gone and the discs are gone, a game exists only as long as the platform holder lets it exist. Unless somebody can get inside the machine. That is the uncomfortable shape of this story. The same leak that makes piracy easier is also the thing that might let a library outlive the company that sold it. None of that is theoretical. The people working on PlayStation 5 emulation on PC now have documentation they were never meant to have. The people working on custom firmware have a foundation that cannot be taken away from them. And the people who wanted to run Linux on hardware they paid for have a route back, 15 years after Sony removed that option from the PlayStation 3. Sony has said nothing publicly about the leak. There has been no statement, no acknowledgement, no security bulletin. From the outside, on the 1st of January 2026, nothing about the PlayStation 5 changed. It boots the same way. It plays the same games. The console under your television is the same object it was the week before. It is just no longer sealed. Sony is currently building the PlayStation 6. Its architecture is not public. Its silicon is not final. And the decision that matters most has almost certainly already been made. Because there is only one way to make sure a key cannot leak out of a chip. Don't put it there.